This is the process shot. I'm Michael. I would prefer to be in a fairy tale, but last I recall, there aren't any of those that involve movies, so things would probably get boring pretty quickly. Anyways, I've seen The Magician's Elephant, a new animated fantasy film from director Wendy Rogers, following a young boy named Peter who was orphaned as a child, living with a retired soldier. Peter had been told for years that his baby sister had been a wartime casualty, but continued to hold some hope. When a fortune teller confirms that she is still alive, he's naturally curious to learn how to find her, only to be given one cryptic instruction: follow the elephant. But there are no elephants where he lives, at least not until a visiting magician conjures one up during an act by accident, putting Peter on a quest that not only involves proving his own worth and ability, but a number of other thematic ideas which get sprinkled throughout the story. Not that there's anything wrong with having a deeper story in a movie, of course. Unlike most other films I've seen, this one at least tries to give every character, major or minor, some sense of depth and motivation for what they do. There is a pretty strong range of backstories and concepts that come from this, from the trauma of war, to the idea of conquering the impossible, to accepting help from others, and, of course, a few messages about family here and there. The issue with this, though, is that partially because there are so many of these underlying ideas going on, they don't individually get a chance to be built up, and so their presence feels secondary rather than structural. This also isn't helped out much by the main plotline going on, which does work out well enough in the long run, but does need a good amount of contrivance to get things going. Characters themselves are equally a bit simplified in their development, hardly or never undergoing any distinct changes across the film, but instead having their shifts nearer to the end of the story. They're also simplified in their personalities, which don't reach much outside of a single comfort zone or a narrative role. At the very least, it's not something which is any major detriment to the story, but altogether the underwhelming narrative does make outcomes feel predictable. I'm not saying that it's a bad story, it just doesn't offer any surprises. Also unsurprising, in a way, was the overall art design of the film, which foregoes any extreme stylization in favor of something more balanced. There's still a nice sense of originality to be found, and the overall design definitely plays into the fantasy of the setting, but otherwise it doesn't strive for anything more remarkable. The bits and pieces of a stronger flair do stand out, but unfortunately that's all that we get, which is actually rather disappointing. Equally disappointing are some of the other technical elements, which also try to balance style and realism to moderate success. Cinematography is a clear example of this, generally keeping shots on a realistic level, but using stylistic point-of-view framing at other times. Sound design and the movie score is less fantastical and a bit more standard and forgettable, building up a scene but not necessarily adding to it. Overall, there's not much to say in favor of how the movie is made up, but that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have anything going for it at all. Still, what it does have isn't exactly spectacular either. In the end, you'd probably come out of this thinking it's a cute story, and it'll certainly distract any kids that someone's babysitting. But don't be surprised if they don't think much of it either. The Magician's Elephant, Wendy Rogers, 2023. 2.5 stars. I suppose it's worth giving a try, at least. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you have something to add, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. This movie probably would have come through better if it had taken more risks. I don't know why it didn't. What's the worst that could happen? Besides complete failure, I mean.